On today's show, we've got our list. We checked it twice. And today we'll unveil our final rankings ahead of the NHL Draft.
And GM Steve Staios spoke to the media, shutting down trade rumors for a certain defenseman and buyout rumors for another.
We'll get into all that and more on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller, up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter. You can find the podcast wherever you get yours, including on YouTube, where a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Make sure to smash the notification bell because we will go new episodes whenever news breaks. Today is Thursday, June 27th. Pilsy, our final list is in. I'm checked in for my flight. We're going to Vegas, and today we will have a trade. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I hope so, Ross. I said there was going to be two trades going on here. So
what time's your flight?
My flight is at 8 Eastern.
What time when you got on the plane to Cabo did the news break? After you turned your phone off?
No, I had got on the flight. I was sitting, buckled in. Captain said, we're taking off. Everybody turn your phones to airplane mode. Right as I was going to turn it to airplane mode, my phone was pinging like crazy. And I was like, what is this? What's going on? And just chicken trade. I didn't even look at the results, what was going the other way. Just turned it to airplane mode, smiled, and went on my way. So I'm hoping, Ross, that this can be a reverse of that. I can see that Chikrin's been traded away from the Sens, and I just won't even need to look at what the return was, and I can just smile and be on my way to Vegas.
So there's a bit of a spoiler. The man who Steve Staios says ain't going anywhere, at least in trade rumors, is Steve Staios on Thomas Chabot. Thomas Chabot was brought up in rumors yesterday. I don't even know where they originated from, but enough that it got back to the man himself while he was addressing the media, and he just said he didn't know where the heck that came from. His name has not been brought up once. I guess the speculative aspect of it would be the fact that $10 million is his real money next season. The no-move clause, 10-team, kicks in on July 1st. So you do kind of have a decision to make. It's either now or never in a sense, but his value is probably lower than it's ever been. And you just hope that he can stay healthy for a full season, because when he's on his game, he's a top four defenseman in the NHL, and no longer does he have to carry the burden of being the only top four defenseman on the entire team. Now that Jake Sanderson is plenty established and able to take on those 25 to 27 difficult minutes night in, night out. So I don't hate the decision to bring Thomas Chabot back. Obviously, we hope that he plays 82 games, and that would be in and of itself a victory at this point. It's been a while, but Pilsy, your thoughts on Steve Staios' media availability, that and as a whole?
Yeah, I thought it was a good availability. He kind of addressed a lot of things up in the air, and he didn't address a lot of things, which I also think is good. Yeah, we had kind of talked about the idea of Chabot being traded. I think where I was interested in Chabot being traded is when you start thinking, okay, if Steve Staios is going to trade a guy like Thomas Chabot, is Thomas Chabot's the longest serving Senator left, right? Easily.
Yes.
Easily. When you start thinking about trading a guy like that with $8 million cap hit, the only thing that I was interested in is, what does that mean Steve Staios' next move is going to be? By no way, shape, or form do I want Thomas Chabot gone, or do I think this team is better without Thomas Chabot. I think he's a big part of this team, not just on the ice, but off the ice as well. So we're glad to hear that the rumors aren't true, but it was exciting, Ross, when you start hearing about freeing up $8 million of cap space, what that could return. But nonetheless, those rumors are shut down, and that's completely fine by me.
And our friend Joe Albert commented on YouTube, says he loves the new intro to the show. And he says that he'd be okay with a mid to late first round pick in return for Thomas Chabot. Of course, we don't have to take too many steps down this road, but I don't think you really have to fall. I feel like if it were going to happen, it should be a hockey trade. I feel like it would have to be a position player who can help you now.
Well, I just think trading a $8 million player for one pick, that's not really realistic. Like not a lot of teams can just put $8 million on the roster. There'd have to be some money coming back the other way. So I don't think that would be the scenario anyways. But it's a moot point because Steve Staios shut that down.
Exactly. He turned the stove off on that one.
Yeah.
Let it cool down. But he still has a lot of work to do, and it will all culminate in the 7th overall pick. Or will it? As he was asked about all the conversations and being such a wide open year. Now we're hearing rumors that Anaheim might go with Beckett Seneke at 3rd overall, which would be just an amazing piece of drama if it happens on the draft floor. We know that Pat Verbeek doesn't care what you think about his pick. And, well, still a lot of runway left. But Leo Carlsson looks like a phenomenal pick at number 2, whereas Adam Fantilli, people were already buying jerseys with his name on it with the Ducks when they found out they were getting the 2nd overall pick. So it'll be super interesting to see which direction Anaheim goes at 3. And we'll see what the trickle-down effect is with teams looking to get into the top 10 who are just outside of it, like Philly. Does Matvei Michkov coming over, if they start seeing Demidov fall, it's like, should we corner the market? We got him over so quickly. Ooh. We did it with Fedotov too. Like, could we jump up and make a play for that? So many moving parts.
Philly needs some centermen.
Yeah, that too. Consta Hellenius is where we had our mock draft taken, and that just makes so much sense if they stay at 12. But Pilsy, we did our final draft rankings. We'll get to those in the next segment, but we've got a clear cut. Our top 15, it's in a different order, but our top 15 is our top 15. And then beyond that, like your 16th player, I have 25th, and my 16th player, you actually think I have 17. Shout out EJ Emery, no spoilers, but it gets wide open after that. So what we did is we took both of our rankings individually that we've been making. Each day we would do our 3 prospect profiles and then slide them into our rankings, check it twice at the end of it. So I like that concept. And then we just averaged it out. So those are coming to you later on. But that top 15, like, I'm going to go out and say it. The Senators cannot leave the draft without a top 15 pick.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, definitely. And there's, before we move on to the draft rankings, though, Ross, there's a couple other things from Staios I want to address.
Housekeeping.
I really thought that it seemed like the Senators, at least from reports, what we were hearing, were going to buy out Travis Hamonic. Steve Staios shut that down as well, basically saying,
hit it with a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. They respect the veteran role that Travis Hamonic has, and basically ended off saying, we hope to have that next season. So it seems like he's going to be here, or at least, Ross, let me reword this. He's not going to be bought out. As Staios said clearly, there's not going to be any buyouts from the Senators. So we'll see if Travis Hamonic remains without a buyout, or if he's traded. Yeah, there's Hammer. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of role he would have if he did stay, but no buyout is coming.
No, it is not. And I was talking to Martian about this yesterday, and I said he's a perfect 7th defenseman as long as he's the 7th defenseman, even if guys go down injured.
Well, that's just the issue, right? Like, Ottawa Senators fans know injuries on the back end happen, especially, unfortunately, Thomas Chabot near the end of the season typically has an injury. So if Travis Hamonic is the guy that needs to slide into the top 4 while the Sens are hopefully pushing for a playoff position, that's not a recipe for success.
I look at it the same way I did with Nick Holden, where it was a responsible, respectable game for the first year or 2. But once these defensive defensemen lose a step, the speed of the NHL is just so fast that these guys are getting turned around on the outside. They can still box out in front of the net, but it's such a rush league right now where guys are just flying in with so much speed that at a certain point, like, everyone slows down, and these big husky defensemen who were never the fastest are getting burned for it. Like you saw it with Braden Coburn when he came to Ottawa. That's a guy who had a phenomenal career. But when he got to Ottawa, the wheels had fallen off. So I hope that Hammer, like, I know he's going to be a great leader. I know he's going to be a great locker room guy. I just hope that he doesn't play more than 12 games.
And the thing is, Ross, when Hamonic was playing with Sanderson, we were thinking, okay, like, you know, he's holding on here. It's all right for now. But now that Sanderson clearly is going to be with Zub and Hamonic's not going to be playing with Sanderson, who even in Sanderson's rookie year, a lot of people were like, Sandy's kind of propping up this D pair here. Like, who's Travis Hamonic going to play with if he does end up playing? It's not going to be someone that can mop up any mistakes or the fact that he's getting beat on the side like that, right? So that's where it's tough to find a spot for him, but I guess we'll see what happens. And then speaking of kind of bottom tier defensemen, also he didn't give any sort of update on Eric Brandstrom.
Not bottom pairing, we're calling them bottom tier defensemen.
You called him a 7th defenseman. That I would say that's bottom tier.
He's a 7th defenseman for sure, but he does bring intangibles, leadership. But I really hope we're not seeing him on the ice. Like Nick Holden played 40 games last year in Ottawa. He can't be up at 40 games.
No, and that's the concern.
We'll see what happens with Travis Hamonic, Eric Brandstrom, and more, as Steve Staios will not tip his hand. I appreciate this answer from him. He was asked about any RFAs or UFAs that will not be qualified or not be coming back. And it could have been so easy for him to just say, Kubalik's not coming back. We all know he's not coming back. But I appreciate the level of professionalism that Steve Staios says, I don't have to tell, like, there's no reason for me to just put that out there. You'll find out on July 1st at noon. If he's not signed and we don't sign him, then he won't come back. Yeah, I appreciate that, where it's like, there's no need. Like, remember how awkward it was when Nick Holden and Austin Watson, maybe less so, they left the door open a sliver for Austin Watson. But remember Nick Holden, he's like, yeah, Pierre told me this morning I'm not coming back. Like, how awkward was that for him to go do a presser after that? Like, I get it, but.
Yeah, I get it's a little bit awkward, Ross, but I almost feel like the players would appreciate that. Now, at least they have time to know that they're not coming back. They can start focusing on other things. And there's no tampering in the NHL. There's no tampering. So it's not like you would start having discussions with other teams or contracts or anything like that, obviously. But I don't know. Part of me thinks the players are like, at least I'm not beating around the bush. And then, because then what if Nick Holden goes up and he's like, I'm so excited to come back to Ottawa, blah, blah, blah. And then after his presser appears like, hey, great job up there, but you're not coming back.
No, I'm pretty sure that the players know. I think that in that conversation, they said, hey, let's keep it private. There's no need for it to be a media story in Ottawa that these guys aren't coming back. It just feels like it's a more professional way to go about doing business.
Although I wouldn't have mind Steve Staios being like, you will never see Kubalik in a Sens jersey ever again. That would have been nice to hear.
He would have called Jacques Martin, let him break that news for him, as we know, wasn't maybe the biggest fan.
Or Brady or Sandy or Pinto.
That USA Czechia game was wild.
Yeah.
In the World Championships. Final note, you mentioned Shane Pinto. Of course, it was brought up, and Steve Staios just saying, Shane knows what I think of him as a player. And I think that I appreciate that too. He also said that sometimes these things take time. Well, tick-tock, because we want Shane Pinto signed in Ottawa and to be a Senator for a long, long time. There's going to be new Senators tomorrow and on Saturday, and we'll have all your coverage for you from Sphere in Vegas.
Can't believe it's tomorrow.
On the ground. Pilsy, quick ad break. Then we will come back and unveil our schedule where you can expect to find us over the weekend, and then our final draft prep. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Whether you want tickets for sports, comedy, concerts, or theater, Game Time is where you gotta go. If you're not big planners like Ross and I, although Ross did just say he's gonna unveil our schedule, so we got some planning ahead. But if you're not huge planners and you just like to do things last minute, Game Time is the place for you. They have killer last minute deals. They got flash deals, zone deals. The views from your seat is the best. Lowest price guarantee puts you at ease knowing the price that they show you is the price that you're going to get at the end of it. And you want to know that your ticket is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. That is Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
All right, Pillsy, wheels up to Vegas today. We will be at the draft, and we want to meet Sens fans who are the same. I know Eric's on a delay right now from Ottawa. He's coming to town. I know Anthony's going to be there as well. We know our guys over at, I want to make sure I'm getting this right, our guys Chris Crawford and company, they'll be in town, so we got a little bit of a Sens crew. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dr. Bob there. The way that guy drives around, he's at the Stanley Cup Finals, rocking a Sens jersey. Just, we want good Sens vibes all around. Yeah. You'll be seeing us all around the strip in Vegas. So hit us up on Twitter at Sens Central and on YouTube. Would love to have a pilgrimage to Sphere full of Sens fans on Friday afternoon. So there's a bit of housekeeping. For more housekeeping, today I'm going to cut some of the clips from our full mock draft. And these clips are going to be from the conversations with our experts. Those will go up on YouTube on Friday morning. And if there is a trade, we will also have a bonus episode for you on Friday morning. Then the expectation is we will have some sort of content for you either on the way to the draft or once we get to the Sphere. And then what do you think we're doing after the first round of the draft? Going out on the town? Or are we going to do, for the fourth consecutive year, an immediate first round draft reaction?
Well, Ross, the answer to that is we're going to do both. However, first, we are going to get you guys your content. Then we're hitting the town of Vegas. But not a green light, Ross. That's a yellow light night because we got to be up at 8:30 in the morning.
Boots on the ground at 8:30.
Yeah. So
boots on the ground.
Yeah.
We're
I'm not
ready
upset
for
about that at all.
We're ready for it. And then on Saturday, I would expect whether it's just a bonus
green
quick
light
hitter, but right after the Senators' entire draft, we're hoping to go down, chat with some scouts after the day two. So we will be in touch with you, and that's why you got to hit the notification bell on YouTube. It is going to be a heck of a weekend. We cannot wait. Hoping to get some live interviews as well. Invite them up to the room, sit them down, give them a bottle of water, and make sure that we get some good content from some great people, some names that you will recognize as friends of the show.
Yep.
All right, Pillsy. First on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft rankings is Macklin Celebrini.
Now, this was a contentious one, Ross. You and I went back and forth on the Celebrini first overall, but we met in the middle and decided to keep it there.
You had him at 40 on your list. I couldn't believe it.
Well, Sens stars. He's not in the Sens range, so that knocks him down the list.
No. That's the easiest thing that we've ever come to terms on. He was first on every single board. He will be the first overall pick. Mike Greer isn't even messing around. He knows he's going to be first. And we're pulling up our top. Well, here, let me scroll down. The average is the point. Here is our Locked On Senators top 10 in our NHL draft rankings. Now, I don't think it'll make good radio if we just sit here and name names. So Let's do this TSN style where they pull up the full list. And then I'll just ask you, out of the top 10, are there any surprises? Because I think some people are going to see this and say, why is Artem Levshunov 5th on this list when a lot of indications say that he will be the pick at number 2 for Chicago?
I mean, keep in mind, this is a rankings, not a mock draft. I'll preface by saying that. I think you and I kind of had our eyes open to Levshunov when Jerome Berube famously did not pick him in the top 8 of our mock draft. Or was it even top 10? No, top 8. He went to 9 in Calgary, right?
Yep.
And I just think a lot of people, they just overhype and overshine the fact that he's a right-hand shot defenseman that had a great year in college. Like 5th overall in the rankings is still a very, very good player. So let's start off with that. But I just think he's maybe not as much of a package and as much of a potential swing as a guy like Zeev Buium, who we have 4th, or a guy like Zane Parekh, who we have right behind Levshunov, could possibly be. So although this isn't how I have it, Ross, I think this is a fair spot to have these 3, Buium, Levshunov, and Parekh, should be very close together. What order you decide to put them in is up to each individual, but I do think these 3 are very close together.
It should be a 1-2-3 run, honestly, in the draft, because people are going to see 1 or 2 defensemen go off the board, and everyone else will be like, well, there's a group of 6, and we need to get our guy from the group of 6. Our top 10 has 5 defensemen in it. Zeev Buium at 4, Artem Levshunov at 5, Zane Parekh at 6, and then Anton Silyev at 10 on our list. Now, Silyev could very well be a top 3 pick in this draft. He could be a top 3 player at 6'7", amazing skater, but we just weren't sold on the offensive contributions that he could have at the NHL level. I don't know if
and some of the decision making is what really was questionable about Silyev. But I mean, it's a young defenseman playing a full season in the KHL, so those are going to be more apparent than if he played in the MHL or something.
The beauty of this list and having the top 10 is that the Ottawa Senators will have their ability to pick from at least 4 of those guys.
At least. I would even say 5 or 6, Ross.
Okay. So you think that at least 1, if not 2, guys outside of our top 10 will go in the top 6?
Yeah, well, you mentioned earlier on the show, Beckett Seneke rumored that the Ducks are interested in him at 3rd.
And Montreal at 5. We kept hearing that.
Yep, and I'm inclined to believe the Senators are probably pretty high on Beckett Seneke as well.
If he goes
that's
before
the guy I would say would jump up, Ross.
He cannot go before Demidov. That would just be criminal.
It would be very surprising, for sure. Very surprising.
Okay, there's our top 10. We will scroll through the rest of the rankings and get you some final draft prep. What we're hearing out of all the insiders are they said it was going to be a whirlwind. And we haven't had a whole lot of trades, so we'll kind of look around the rumor mill a quick bit. And what have we seen from the trades recently, the few that there have been, and could the Senators have made comparable trades? That's all next. You're listening to Locked On Senators. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You can visit the GLEBE Central Pub right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. They will have the NHL Draft on screen tomorrow night with volume, so you can go check out the NHL Draft with our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. The GLEBE Central Pub is amazing because not only do they have great food, awesome drinks, and an atmosphere that brings you back and back and back, but the other part is the family aspect of the GLEBE Central Pub. You can snuggle in for movie night every Tuesday and Sunday and go check out all the great events. Live music every Saturday night at the GLEBE Central Pub. They've got specials all week long. I'm talking wing night on Monday, trivia on Tuesday, and Taco Thursday, $5 each all day at the Glebe Central Pub. So get to 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. And you can also go check out Atletico Ottawa games there. They are soccer hooligan bars, and you know how much fun it is watching footy with the fellas. So get to the Glebe Central Pub, 779 Bank Street. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pilsy. I was looking on our YouTube where we've been putting together a 2024 NHL Draft playlist. And when you make a playlist, you're like, wow, I wonder how many videos I'll actually put into this. Well, the NHL Draft is tomorrow and Saturday, and we have 122 draft videos ready for you.
Wow.
123 after today.
Whew. All right, here we go.
Yeah, we're ready for this draft, and obviously it's going to be very special. The last time that the NHL will all be in attendance. If you saw the NBA draft last night, round 1, that's what the NHL draft will more look like going forward. The top few prospects will still be invited. The commissioner will make the picks, or maybe it'll be Bill Daly, but someone at the league office will make the picks, and the GMs won't be there. They will all be in their war rooms. War room's a super cool word, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. Although War Room was like we had PTSD from hearing about war rooms because the Ottawa Senators' war rooms were laughable compared to other teams.
I remember that. Was that the 2020 draft? It had to be because that was the one everyone did virtually.
Yeah, or it might have even been before Ross, but I remember we pulled up a picture and it was like Dorian with like an old laptop and like
Randy Lee was
legal
sitting
pad.
next to him. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was just oh boy.
Better days are already here, and you got to think a best-in-class attitude is ahead as well for the Ottawa Senators, and getting a great player at 7th overall could be a huge part of getting that. Now, I want to end the first part of our list here with just going to 15, where it is a major teardrop for us after 15. Who stands out to you in this range?
Like that's too high or too low, or what do you mean? I feel like
I just snapped it over to you quick because I had to sneeze and mute my mic, to be honest with you.
oh, okay, no worries.
Is there a surprise to you? Almost dropped my coffee. I mean, did you hear the cup move?
Yeah, dude, you gotta get it together here. All right, I'll take over. You know what, Ross? Just shut your camera off, shut your mic off, and I'll drive the bus from here. Okay, so this list is where we really see a change in the draft. So as long as the Sens do not go trade back below 15, they have a chance at getting a good player. Like I mentioned, I think the only player I can see sneaking up into the top 10 is Beckett Seneke. I'm highlighting it on my computer as if you guys can see. Classic move by me.
Gotcha.
Or maybe, oh, nice. Thank you. It worked. Or Carter Yakemchuk could be a guy that also goes up. I don't see
who hired Corey Pronman.
Yeah, honestly, checks in the mail. I don't see Hellenius, Branteg Nygaard, or Yzerman bumping into the top 10 here.
So basically, it's a tier of 12 or 13, and then these two are kind of like. So the thing is, Yzerman's either going to be a hitter, like he's either going to be a 40-goal scorer, or he's going to be a 10-goal scorer. I think at the NHL level, or he's going to be a guy who scores 20 and doesn't do much else, like a bit of Mike Hoffman in his game.
Yep, sure.
He's either Mike Hoffman or Danny Heatley. So you're either going to get a 50-goal scorer or a guy who scratches 30 a couple, but is a liability in other areas of the game, where Branteg Nygaard could not be more different. He's a guy who's more Patrick Hornqvist, more every single shift. He's going to give 100% effort and be a pain in the ass to play against. Branteg Nygaard is probably among the most NHL-ready players in this draft class as well. A guy who could step in maybe even as soon as this, after his season in the SHL, where he's jumping for the first year after playing the Allsvenskan. That could be an interesting guy. So this top 15, get familiar with it because the Ottawa Senators will be making a pick in the top 50, and I'm almost certain about that. And they're going to get a potential game breaker with everyone. I just said the guy who goes 15th might be a 50-goal scorer. Like, that's pretty good potential.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think the Sens would be in on Yzerman, but yes, the potential's there.
The potential is there. 16th on my list is EJ Emery. As we get to this, is a nice tier here because Cole Hudson's interesting that he snuck up to 20 on our list. EJ Emery at 16, Charlie Elick at 17. Those are two right-handed defensemen where if the Senators had that 25th overall pick, that would be a great selection. It just feels like they probably won't be in this range anymore. So I think we can just kind of scroll through this. I will be posting this on Twitter later on. You can follow along with all of our draft coverage. And hey, subscribe to the Patreon. I just put our link to this document. We've got how many pages is this document? It's got to be like 15 pages worth of draft notes. All of our notes there for our prep is in it. So we posted that one exclusively on our Patreon. But Billsy, this next tier, we've got a good Ottawa boy here in Cole Baudouin at 21 on our rankings. Our most divisive player is in this range as well. Stian Solberg, you're still not sold on, eh?
I'm not as sold on. Like, I think I've got him at like what, 34 or something. So I recognize how the potential is and where he could be. I just think teams are a little overhyped on him. I want to see what he does in a bigger sample size at higher competition. So I'm less on Solberg as most. I'll admit that.
We got Trevor Connolly at 29 with an average of 28. That to us is just kind of a business decision. We're trying to add players who, we know will be organizational pillars on and off the ice. So we've got Trevor Connolly, admittedly first round talent, probably top 10 talent, but we'll see. That's a wild card
character
in this draft class. Another Ottawa boy, Dean Letourneau, comes in at 33 on our list. And for the Senators at 39, I would be keeping an eye on the bottom part of this piece of our rankings. Adam Kleber, right shot defenseman, 6'5". Our guy Joe Bell loves him. And then at 38, Will Skahan. He's a mutant. Now, big left defenseman, maybe a bottom pair projection. So is that a guy you want to use when you need? I think the Sens actually, if they don't go right shot defenseman at 39, I really think they got to take a swing on upside. Yeah. Like, that's the type of, you want to either, if you ground out, whatever, but you want to be hitting for the fences on that pick.
Yeah, I would agree. Kleber would be a great addition in this spot. Ross, why don't you scroll down a little bit more so we see the range of other players in the 39 area?
Jesse Pulkkinen, man, the overager. He's a guy who could be super interesting as an already 19-year-old, but he only started really taking hockey seriously after last year's draft. He saw his buddies get drafted, and he's like, hey, that looks fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. Tanner Howe is a guy I really like, but I'm with you, Ross. I think they should try to target specifically a right shot defenseman with pick 39, but a defenseman in general. But depends how they go on 7, and if they trade back, get more picks, etc. But the issue is, if you are going for a defenseman, Ross, here is where they start to thin out a little, and especially if other teams are prioritizing that and we get a run-on of defensemen, you might be standing at the musical chair circle with no chairs left as far as defenseman goes at 39.
That's a thing. There's so many, and we could see a real long run. Like half of the first round could be defenseman, which would be unprecedented. Merrick Van Acker, who Brock Otten selected for the Sens at 25 in our mock draft. He's at 44, the Brantford Bulldog. A couple other interesting names in this range. Sam O'Reilly jumped up rankings after his impressive playoffs with the London Knights. He's a guy who we had a lot lower when the initial lists came out, but he's at 47 now.
We had him 76th, Ross. That was our ranking for him when we did it. So
yeah. Another player I want to highlight here, Ben Danford has been getting a lot of smoke from Brock Otten in the OHL. He's an Oshawa General as well, so he's a guy who I think we could be looking for the Ottawa Senators. Pilsy and I are going to put out our top picks for number 7 on Twitter, unless, like, should we wrap the show with that once we finish? Because I don't know if we really need to go too much. These are guys outside of Ottawa's range. Again, this whole list is available on the Patreon, but it's awesome to see that the draft's finally here. All the work that goes into it. Like, I can't imagine how scouts feel that have been doing this all year, like, to culminate in this weekend. It's just so special. And I think that for us, we're just happy to be there and happy to be like the smallest cog in the whole wheel that turns the draft cycle over. I love this time of year, and to be able to head to our first NHL draft is awesome. I can't wait to get to Vegas and get going.
Ross, I would pay a substantial amount of money to look at the Ottawa Senators list. Like, just to see it. I wouldn't post it. I wouldn't tell anyone about it. I would just want to know what they're valuing compares to how we're looking at things. Like, I would just be so fascinated to see the difference.
If we see Pooley in Vegas, I will ask him.
Okay.
Say on Sunday, can you send me the list, please?
Or Ross, we should talk to him before the draft. So, Pooley, you got any questions on players, prospects? Like we got some info for you.
I'm actually going to print out all these lists. Thanks for reminding me before we go.
You're welcome.
One, we're going to do our own mock draft based on what we think the teams are going to pick. I want that in one pocket. And then in another pocket, I want our list because I want to be scratching off names as we go. By the way, last year we had 29 of our 32 top picks were in the first round. That's one more than Bob McKenzie. Just saying.
Nice.
Just saying.
Ross, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, on FanDuel, they have draft bets. Last I checked was
up
a couple
5,
days ago. So yeah, it was only up to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think you know the order of that top 5, why not get some green numbers in the account for it?
All right, Pillsy, this is what everybody's been waiting for. Our top 5 players at 7th overall. Who is your A++ pick in that spot?
Ross, I've been pretty consistent with this. I usually try to stay consistent. You know, sometimes there's material changes and my takes and opinions shift, or I have to reword them or re-emphasize certain parts. But I feel pretty safe in saying people that have been following along know I've maintained my priority. Zane Prek is my number 1 A++ pick for the Sens at 7th overall. A right-hand shot defenseman that has put up historical numbers in the OHL for a defenseman, scoring more than 30 goals. That doesn't happen very often. His analytics are, EP had an article where it showed it was literally off the charts. Like they got all these little dots in the same area, and then Zane Prek is way up over here. Like just what he's able to do, the hockey IQ, the dynamic play that he has is so incredible. For me, it's worth taking that swing because I believe in time he could become a version of Erik Karlsson, and Sens fans, like, that's music to your ears right there. So that's the type of swing I want happening here at 7th overall.
Okay. Do you want to kind of bounce back and forth, or do you want to go with your maybe we do a top 3? Because top 5.
Let's bounce back and forth.
My number 1 is Zeev Buium, if he's available. I just think that having a left side, and I know it's not ideal positionally, but having Zeev Buium and Jake Sanderson for years to come on the left side would be just an absolute game changer for Ottawa. They would own transition for the next 10 years.
Yep, definitely.
So Zeev Buium would be my top guy. He's 4th on my list. Like, I mean, in Craig Button's most recent mock draft, he went 3rd. People were chirping us when Jerome selected him 3rd in our mock draft, and then seeing Craig, like, Zeev Buium is a winner. People want to add winners. Yep. He won at the U18s. He won at the U20s. He won a national championship as the top defenseman on his team at 18 years old. This guy's an absolute stud. He's got 80 friends and family coming, some from as far as Israel, to come to the draft. Like, this guy he's a lot like Jake Sanderson. And I think if you talk to a lot of Sens fans, cloning Jake Sanderson sounds like a great idea. So that's why I've got Zeev Buium as my top pick. Pillsy, I'll keep it rolling. My number 2 option for the Ottawa Senators is Tej Iginla. The power aspect of his game, when he fills out, the shot is lethal. Everything that guy does in the offensive zone is just high IQ. The guy thinks the game at a high level. He blew up this year in his goal scoring ability and his point totals. Obviously, the bloodlines are a great addition to add to the organization. The guy gets it. He comes from a family that gets it. His sister's already representing Canada, winning medals. His younger brother might even be better than him. This is a hockey family that's just starting to scratch the surface of the next generation. And if he could be half of the player Jerome Iginla was, sign him up for the Sens at 7.
Yeah, Tej Iginla probably would have been my next guy. So obviously, I agree with that one.
You don't have to not take a guy because I've got him. Because my 3rd guy is Zane Prek.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, but I'll stick to my pattern. Look, it's possible Levchinov falls to the Sens at 7. If he falls there, I'm interested.
It's funny because in my rankings, I have Levchinov 1 pick ahead of Zane Prek. But if they're both on the boards for the Sens, I don't know what I'd do.
I'm taking Prek if they're both on the board. I'm swinging for that. But Ross, it's just we talked about this. Finding good right chopped defensemen is so hard to do. If you have the opportunity to draft and develop one of those guys, I just think it's such a key part of having that back end, because then you don't have to go out and pay premium assets to acquire one. So if Levchinov is available and Zane Parekh was gone, I would be happy with that selection. I know we talked a little bit about why we were more lower on him than some other entities, but make no mistake, he's still a great player and a great prospect. And Ross, a lot of people have him as the top defenseman in this draft. A lot of people have Zeev Buium as the top defenseman in this draft. So those are the types of players and the types of swings and the type of cornerstone foundation pieces you need when you're drafting a top 10 pick in a draft like this.
So with that said, where are we at with the other defensemen in this top range? Sam Dickinson for me is number 4 after Zane Parekh.
Yeah, I like Sam Dickinson for the Sens. You're getting an NHL player there, in my opinion. There's not a lot of risk. He's got a high floor. He's got all the tools needed to be a top 4 defenseman. I don't think there's much offensive upside, or let me reword this. There's not as much offensive upside as you could get from a Buium, obviously Parekh, and a Levchinov. And I think the Sens would be more inclined to go with Dickinson over Siliev. So definitely, I think Dickinson makes more sense. And I would be disappointed they didn't go for a big swing, but at the same time, I would be very comfortable with Sam Dickinson being that pick.
Again, he's a left shot defenseman, which isn't perfect, but like the talent at this part of the draft, you take best player available and you worry about that later. Now, we are under the assumption that our top 3 players, Macklin Celebrini, Ivan Demidov, and Caden Lindstrom, are off the board. So we didn't even consider those 3. Those would be the top 3, obviously, for us as well at 7. If somehow Caden Lindstrom's there, whoop, he goes up to number 1 on my list.
Big time. Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't see any way, shape, or form that either. Well, okay, let's just not even talk about Celebrini. So Demidov and Lindstrom, I don't think there's any realm of possibility that they fall to 7. So.
No, me neither. So let us know in the comments who you would like the Ottawa Senators to target at number 7. For me, it's Zeev Buium, Tisha Ginla, Zane Parekh, Sam Dickinson. If they leave with any of those 4 players,
yep,
that's an A+. And I would even say for an A draft, that's where I'll expand it to Berkeley Catton, Anton Siliev. I'll sell myself on a 6'7" smooth skating defenseman if I have to. And I'd probably throw that might be my next like mini tier.
Seneke doesn't sneak in there?
No, I think
Seneke's in my second tier.
My third tier is going to be Konsta Helenius, Beckett Seneke, and Carter Yakemchuk.
Okay. Konsta Helenius doesn't make it for me. I just think at 7 it doesn't make sense. There's too much other swing. But yeah, Yakemchuk, I could get excited about. Lots of skill there. Yeah, I think Beckett Seneke is a guy that's going to go higher than people think. I think NHL teams and scouts are very interested in what he can do, and for a good reason. The guy is nasty. For
a really good reason. Now let's take a look at Pilsy and my top 10. So this is how it all differs. This will be my final thoughts on today's show, our final draft prep episode of Locked On Senators. Again, we've got plenty of content on YouTube. You can go check out. The mock draft has timestamps, so you can still go learn about all these players from our scouts and figure out who you like and who you hope the Senators go with in this draft. So it's funny, like we've got in our top 10 so many players. They're all the same players.
All the same, yeah.
And that even extends to the top 15. Our top 15s are the same. They're all just separated
we've talked about that.
by a few. So it's super interesting to see just how close, but at the same time, how different our lists are. Like you have Zane at 4, I have Zane at 7, and for Zeev, it's 4 and 6. And it's just slight differences in preference. But all in all, these players are all going to be impact NHLers. There's no doubt in my mind. Maybe one bus, and I don't even know which one. I don't want to guess.
Yeah.
But I do think that you're looking at a lot of great players here, and I'm just glad the Senators, I know the pain of the season was brutal, but this is the fruit of that tough labor that overtime with no extra cash all season long. This is what you get in return, is a player that could potentially help your team down the road.
Yeah, there's so much talent here, Ross. Honestly, I could spin zone myself into liking any of these players for the Sens.
Pilsy, any final thoughts? I know we still got to get to packing. We've been waiting up until the very last minute. We're just hours away from heading to the airport. Final thoughts on not only the show, Pilsy, but the draft as a whole.
Final thoughts for me. We've mentioned this a couple times, but we really mean it. Look, going to the draft is going to be a new experience for Ross and I. If you guys have certain content you want to see, or you have content ideas for us, let us know. We've got lapel mics, so we're going to be doing stuff a little differently. I've got my camera. We're going to be doing some filming. Ross, I even dug out from our CSM days. I dug out my old tape recorder. So if we got to get in scrums and get some audio, we're going to do that. So we're locked up with equipment here. So if you guys have fun things you want us to do, I know a lot of people have kind of mentioned they want it to be a little bit more like a vlog style where they see how our day is going and things like that. We've got a CSM alum cameraman, a content guy coming with us. So we're going to have some assistance there. So let us know in the comments or hit us up on Twitter at Sens Central. Fun content ideas that you guys want to see.
And hopefully Steve Staios remains busy. But man, what a home run on Linus Ullmark. Dude, we haven't had a chance to chat. He did a 20-minute media availability. And it's almost like when I ask you final thoughts sometimes, you're like, wait, I still have coffee left. We're done talking already? That guy is just awesome, man. Like, yeah. I think that something we kind of overlooked about Linus Ullmark is he's coming from a winning culture. Like this guy, he plays to win the game. And I think that what he's going to bring off the ice might be equally as important as the goaltender that he is. And that's a high bar.
Yeah. Sorry, Ross. My final thought is I'm so excited about Linus Ullmark and how good he is. I haven't even, like, it's kind of glossed over me that we don't have the 25th overall pick. Like you and I were like, Emery, Alec, there's so many good players you could have there. We're talking about that pick. I don't give a damn about losing that pick now. Like, Linus Ullmark is the guy. I would have given up so much more to acquire him. So, boy, I am excited.
Now, if EJ Emery is the 25th pick and in the division, I'm going to be sad.
Don't care.
No. Pilsy, content idea, and people are listening this deep in the episode. You'll be like, oh, they did do it. We're going to take a video while the 25th pick's being announced, just glued to our phone watching Linus Ullmark highlights. We're not even in the sphere. We are just, that entire wall is a screen? No, we're watching Linus Ullmark highlights on the phone.
Love it.
Okay. All sorts of goofy ideas just like that this weekend. Talk to you from Las Vegas. For today, we say goodbye. Thank you so much for liking, watching, engaging with the show, being a part of our draft coverage. It's literally been 2.5 months since the Senators last played a game, and we love the draft. We do all that prep. It's a labor of love so that we can let our hair down or cut it off in time to go and enjoy this weekend. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. We will talk to you tomorrow for another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.